And I'm with Stephanie Lynch, running for 5th District City Council. Hi, Stephanie. How are you? Thank you so much for coming.
Of course, yeah.
So I have to say, what a journey you've been on, just by looking at all the things that you've been doing within Richmond and everything. So to get this started, let's look into why did you want to run for City Council?
It's a great question. To me, I've had the experience working one-on-one with members of our Richmond community, many of which were members of the underserved population, were left behind, were swept under the rug. And I saw firsthand as a social worker, when I was working directly with those folks, where the system failed our community. I went on to go back to VCU and get my master's in social work policy administration and practice, to go fight on a policy level to change that system. And through my journey in making impactful and systemic policy change on the state level, I have realized how great of an impact at the local level we can have on changing that system, changing people's lives, and truly improving our community. So I've always had an interest in serving at the local level because of that ability to have such a tangible impact. But it was about a couple months ago when when the story about Parker broke. And he had done, I think, an amazing job as a city council member. And I was inspired by him, and I was really inspired by so many other women who had stepped up to lead. And right when the announcement about Parker came out, the budget was being contested. The city council meetings, to me, and the relationship between city council, the mayor, the community members, really, I think, I kind of looked at that as an opportunity to have a member on city council who was a true consensus builder, who was about getting it done, about getting results for people that they could feel and realize. And I think that's something that, as a woman candidate, I bring to the table, and the door opened and I walked through it. And it's hard as a woman to run and to make that choice and say, you know what, I'm going to step up and I'm going to do this. I think there's unique challenges about being a female candidate that you don't really realize and understand fully until you do it. But to me, it was so important to really make that commitment to giving back to not only to Richmond, which this is my hometown. I consider Richmond my hometown. It's the longest place I've ever lived. I was a military brat, so I moved every 2.5 years, to make that commitment at the local level, but also to bring what I knew and felt confident about in my skill set to the table.
So another big issue is the whole Navy Hill redevelopment plan. I know a lot of people have had mixed feelings about that as well, since it's sort of taking into the Coliseum. Yeah, it's taking into the Coliseum. It's sort of harming around the surrounding areas. Where are you on that?
Yeah, I've sat, marinated, looked over, examined, questioned all 980 pages of that deal now. I still have a lot of questions, and I wonder one fundamental, but the biggest question that I wrestle with on this whole deal, and that is, what would we generate in revenue, and what would become of that space and downtown if we sold off those parcels and tried to have some input on what went there, because we can do that through zoning, we can do that through land use and with thoughtful planning. Do we need 80 square blocks of publicly financed non-recourse revenue bonds for startup capital for a nonprofit, which has a lot of leaders in it who work for for-profit companies? Is that the best answer? I'm really grappling with that, and I would love to see the city do an analysis on what that the proposal I just spoke of, just selling that land off, being planful with it, and getting some community input about what should go there. I'd love to see what that would yield. And I don't think we would be doing our due diligence if we did not go through that exercise, because right now we're taking the assumptions that have been built into that deal. If you look at it and you talk to other experts in the field who have done and built stadiums and who manage large scale events,
Yeah, no,
I think that those numbers are and the assumptions that are the foundation of this deal are faulty, and so I can say this: we got to do something, right? Got to do something with that area. The city is spending $9 million on a blighted Coliseum a year out of the general fund. We've got parking lots that are sitting there on valuable pieces of property that we're collecting absolutely no tax revenue on. We know we need to create a center in our downtown that helps to revitalize organic and natural growth of our retail fronts, restaurants, apartments. We know we need all those things. Do we need 80 square blocks of publicly financed tax incremental finance zone to do that?
And that kind of leads me into my next question, with the mayor's proposal of the property tax for real estates. We all know that it didn't push through. So how do you feel as if you would help plan the city budget and help balance the budget?
Yeah, so I mean that is the, in essence, the key role of a city council member. Now I've been working the Virginia budget for 10 years. I love working the budget.
You love numbers.
I love the process.
Yeah.
I do not like numbers. Don't tell my professors here, but I didn't do well in our core math courses. but I absolutely love working the budget and the process of working the budget, and it is about consensus. In a budget, you have a pie, and you have to make really tough calls about where to fund certain priorities, because this is all you get. In working the Virginia budget, you have to be very strategic about, okay, if I'm going to go after this pot of funding, or if I'm going to go for this budget amendment, what over here is not going to get funded, because it's a plus or minus game, because we're balancing to zero. But that is fun. That excites me, to be able to look these challenges in the face and figure it out, and know that my North Star, my guiding principles, are my social work heart, and it is keeping the community members, particularly those who have not always been in the priority or have not always had a voice or a seat at the table, keeping them at the forefront of what I do and what motivates me. In regards to raising taxes, I mean, I think, having a statewide perspective, I have a larger view on and perspective than probably some of my other colleagues. I see in the General Assembly money being left on the table for Richmond every year. I watch other localities get funding for their projects, or get legislative initiatives that benefit them financially every year, and we don't. And that really frustrates me. So, I mean, one of my, key priorities, and one of the assets I know I can bring to the table is helping with that, and making sure that we are not leaving any opportunities on the table. We are not leaving any stones unturned, and that we are generating, maximizing every opportunity that we can to generate revenue back into the city coffers, and also take advantage of state opportunities and federal funding opportunities that come down the pike. And I'm fortunate to have guys on that.
So Stephanie, I want to thank you so much for coming. You are definitely like your slogan, she listens, she leads. My name is Erica, reporting live from VCU.